Alright, hello people. So following the last video I made about following up on the whole month of June where I had really and truly went MIA, but administration has started some stuff. That I take my time. However, I did mention that I would have made a video about risk per se or the innate risk of investing. Really and truly, this video is that video. I have gathered a total of 12, I was at 12 or 13. I don't know if by the time I'm done record this, it'll make sense for the 13th one, but 12 for now. Starting with number one, which brought this whole thing together, is the delisting risk. Scotia being the most recent, or possibly the most recent, not me yet, possibly the most recent company to be delisted, is a innate risk of its own. Because one, oftentimes when we're reading prospectus and them something, they want to say who owns the company, how much of the company they are selling to us as a general public. The reason why we even think about that or even consider is if the person or if the company is being offered to the public, if really and truly them only offer like 10 or 15 or 20 or 30% of the entire company, in the grand scheme of things, we really just have a minority stake in the entire institution. We having minority stake in a company, there are certain decisions where really and truly no can say no to. I.e., annual general meetings. Normally, when you have minority shares in company, you really pull no weight, really and truly. Even though them say each shares are equal, but if you have $10,000 worth of something and a person have a couple hundred million worth of something, what they say will go more. The whole concept of this delisting thing is why normally when we're going through prospectus and something there would actually look upon to say how much of a company are them really are sell away. Yeah, you want to understand who even have majority stake of the company so you can figure out the direction of the company per se. I know the innate thing is people normally hold the idea that once a company is listed at the stock market, it's there forever, which is not necessarily the case. Oftentimes when companies come to the market, it's for the betterment of themselves, the leeway on the taxes and other benefits. It's not just, want every 3 months me have to make a public announcement about how the company are go and rate it and every little move where I go just for the fun night. Really and truly. It's opportunity for them see where if them go public they would either make more money or spend less in expenses when them come to the market really and truly. Whenever you're going at next stock you should ask who own majority stake in the stock. Is there a control owner, meaning say there's somebody who owns 70 to 90% of the entire company, which in this case, in Scotia's case, could there ever be a possibility that the major shareholders might buy out? Yeah, and would you be comfortable with the price that the owner would willing to offer? The thing is, if they see the company worth more or value more, they're not going to pay out said more. It's just what the stock price is at that time, they'll pay it. So if the stock is worth $100, and to say the stock price are trade at $61, even though they know internally that the company is worth more, they're not going to do that. You just have to think about that. The second risk factor is suspension risk. This happened to Atlantic, this happened to Dermont, this happened to MFS, this happened to Akentire as well, or something like that. What is suspension? Suspension essentially means if a company fails to provide their financial statements, rather than every quarter or the annual, which normally JSE does give like grace period. So whenever the grace period done, they don't get it, probably get like a warning or whatever. And after if it prolonged, they'll give like a suspension of that. Normally, sometimes it's not even the company's issue. It's not the company fault. Sometimes the auditors and the person who do their auditing probably, it might not necessarily be auditing with them accounting team or whomsoever might not be able to complete it fast enough because them have other workloads. Definitely the auditors that auditing a lot of companies would be busy overtime. It might take a little delay, and that's why the grace period will come in. If them say alright, them not produce any documents, then I just so you go. What suspension really do? For example, imagine you 100,000 shares of one company. Suddenly need money and you log in your broker account, so bam, you can't sell. You can't sell the shares. You check JSE and see trading has been frozen for this particular company because they're not compliant. When suspension happens, this poses another risk, which is liquidity. So liquidity, no, you can't sell, you can't do whatever. This is why governance oftentimes is also very important compared to making profits. The next one, which really is a continuation, but number 3 regardless, is liquidity risk. Outside of suspension, you can't sell your shares them. What happens if, for example, you have a company and check the trading queue and probably like a 10 person sell, nobody now buy, or 10 person buy, nobody now sell, which is a better situation if you have more buyers than sellers, that will push up stock price. If you have more sellers than buyers, that will pose a risk, meaning say, oh, people want to get money but there's nobody willing to actually buy that share. For example, a very simple example, if you try buy trans at relatively decent price, however, you'll get it. If you try sell trans at a relatively decent price, you will get it. So buying and selling trans America, you will be able to actually do your trade now like a there. So compared to maybe like another company that might not have as much trading volumes, you might end up can't sell the shares them. So there is that. Liquidity actually poses a very important, I guess, risk when investing in particular stocks. The fourth risk is corporate governance risk. If you notice when a financial statement or when you check on JSE, you see this particular company have constant CFO resignation. You see them have a new CFO today, another one today. Them have a major auditor I resign. Them have constant delay in like them financials being pushed. Or you have some random transactions being done that aren't properly explained, then that is a governance risk. That means that there's some internal factors that because of due diligence they have to report it. There's things that they're not going to be saying to you. I remember a company, when what we are seeing as shareholders is what you call their best foot forward, or at least they're trying to put the best foot forward. You're not gonna see everything. If you see people are resign and name something there and constant turnover, important faces or important personnel, you might want to take a step back from the company and assess what is really going on. Alright, so the fifth risk is majority shareholder risk. If you see a company, most companies you'll see them have like 60 to 90% of the voting powers, really and truly. This means that once there's certain decision to make, minority shareholders really don't really have nothing. They'll just say, hey, may I do this? Just for corporate thing. So there is less friction when certain decisions are passed. I guess once they have milk out all of the benefits, normally for JSE you get like 5 years, none, then the other 50% tax. For example, let's say them they just want tax welfare like a while. Afterwards done, them can just say, oh, we are cut off, we get our benefits. We are deep now. There is that, and as such buyout becomes much more feasible per se. For example, if them payout might become weird, so you might get a serious amount of dividend payments like this normally happen. Alright, that is the case. Maybe the majority shareholder need some cash right now, then push that for anything. Some a company that did that in recent times, but we're not calling it. A next risk, which not only companies face this risk, we as individuals collectively face these risks. But next risk is regulatory risk. So if you notice in recent times, we've had a lot of new regulations being passed, etc., etc., etc. Those risks also affects companies. Yeah? So new tax, for example, recently them had a tax on beverages like sugar beverages or whatever. Companies that sell like sugar beverages, juice or whatever will see an increase in taxes. So taxes for that, and then they must go pass down to the customers, which they're not going to fully absorb it. So when they pass down to the customers, what will happen is you go so bam, customers might buy less, or sometimes companies might say, we'll absorb it. Then profit margin shrink. And put on financial report, no wonder our one. There is that. You have banking regulations where it might also affect banking companies. Have insurance, capital requirement affect insurance companies. Environment, they can do certain things in a certain places. The minimum wage increase, import duties, all them submerged from regulation, i.e. the government. The government is a near risk to everybody, really and truly. The seventh risk is technology and cyber security risk. Recently, for example, again, JSE, which you guys should know, JSE is also a listed company on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. JSE was, a victim of cybersecurity. While there hasn't been any loss of people capital or money or shares or whatever, it highlights what cybersecurity can really do. That's why you want a company to have good cybersecurity, to have good cybersecurity risk detection and prevention measures. You really want to know how dependent they are. Really and truly, I don't remember another time when I've heard of these security risks happening to JSE. So they have a very robust security system, and the hackers or whoever never really get any valuable shares or anything. There is that. A question as relates to cybersecurity risk, you might want to ask yourself as well: how dependent is the technology that these companies use? If they do suffer a cybersecurity issue, will this actually halt operations? You can prove that I never halt the operation, because even on the day when the hacking situation them announced, or whenever it was, I was still trading throughout the month, and it did quite fine. So, and then do they disclose these issues? Not find out from a news or a reporter person. So they did. That is a risk that you might want to consider as well. A next risk that you might want to focus on is key person risk. Key person meaning the important individual within a company. If them, for example, retire or change or become unable to do them work, will the company innately suffer? So, for example, if the CEO of a company gone, will the company just stop at a halt? That is also a near risk. Or you also want to know if, for example, if this person is not the face of the company, will the company tank? Will the company operations still be able to operate regardless? For example, is there like a succession plan, meaning you have like a another CEO or somebody in the pipeline can take over if push come to shove, worse come to worse. So there is that. The next risk, and this one kind of actually important, is capital allocation risk. A company can make excellent profit but destroy shareholder value. For example, overpaying for acquisition mean them buy certain assets at an inflated price, or a price you might feel so not really valuable. There's a company that oftentimes them don't disclose the actual figure, so we can't even know what is what. I.e., we know a company that did that. Investing in poor projects, like them might do things where they were really make sense. They might take on unnecessary debt. They might issue too much shares. Every second they might issue shares. Them do them IPO, them have APO, then APO, then APO, then APO. There's that. Or they might buy back shares at inflated price. There is that. Number 10, risk really and truly has to deal with the investor. What I wanted 9 was things you want to see the company doing, or things where the company might need to actually take action or a penny. Number 10 to 12 really and truly is you as an investor, the risk that you should assess for yourself as it relates to investing. First one is concentration risk. A lot of investors in Jamaica unknowingly build companies, like build a portfolio with stupidly concentrated risk. Risk with concentration is that if that particular industry tanks, you suffer. Your portfolio suffer. It means you might want to have a little a balance risk. And speaking of risk, shameless plug, my course explains risk and how you can assess risk. There's currently left on discount for $70. It's originally $100. You can buy it at discount. It helps support my channel. Okay, so risk For example, you don't want to have too much in one particular industry. So you don't want to have too much shares in a particular company or companies within a particular industry. Because what happens is when one thing turns bad or one particular industry is affected, then it hurt you. For example, if you have bank stocks, then you have stocks that invest in a certain stuff, then you have insurance, all in the finance industry. Really and truly, you're still concentrated. You don't even know, say, you're concentrated. So you might want to deviate when you're building your portfolio. Here is that you have valuation risk. A great company isn't always a great investment. This is where valuation, you need to learn how to value stocks. Just don't take random information from persons on the internet, because you don't know where I get them information from. So you need to learn, for example, you need to learn PE ratio, book value ratio, cash flow, return on equity, which is important to you, expected growth, so you can calculate what you might make in the future. You need to understand the risk. And if you don't know what you value your stocks at, just buying blindly, you might actually pay more money for a particular stock than you actually need to. There is that. Last risk is really and truly reinvestment risk. Even though I'm talking about stocks, I don't necessarily alone expect someone to just invest in stocks alone, or even just a particular stocks. For example, bring back the whole Scotia situation. All the person when I invest in a Scotia, they might get them good dividends, stock price and move gradually and things. If them do decide say they will actually close or list and go private, all the money there you have to figure out where you put it. You have to figure out which stocks you're planning to invest that newfound money in, or another investment vehicle. So you need to consider that at the back of your head at all time. A frame I think you guys would use or appreciate would be when you evaluate a stock. These are a few questions you can ask yourself. One, can it make money? You need to can understand the revenue growth, the margin, the return on equity, them cash flow, them little stuff there. Next question you should ask, can it survive in a downturn? For example, if them not overbeared with debt, if them have decent liquidity, liquidity also means if the company can in and out with them transactions and be fine. In addition to you can buy and sell the stocks yourself. Here's that. You have the Almond Z score and interest coverage. There is that. Next question you should ask is, can I trust the management? Government, governance, auditing quality, them have decent reporting history. Here is that. If it's a IPO, you're not really know, it's just really truly take a gamble. A good thing to show is if the company can provide it with more than just 2 years of financials. Yeah, because 2 years can be what they have been working on to make it look good on paper for sell we as investors. But them can share a 5-year track record, maybe not to be audited or whatever, but you can see the pattern and you can see them trajectory. Is a better bet for you as an investor. Can I exit when I want to? Meaning, say, if you can buy and sell stocks back and forth, if you look on other QSs, the other Q always enough. There is that. Now we have the suspension risk. You think you might get suspended because it not reported financials, or has it ever been suspended? Here's that thing. I think about delisting of it as well. Last question you also think about is, am I paying a fair price? Meaning the valuation metrics such as the PE, the dividend yield, the PB, the cash flow, discounted cash flow, them some there actually make sense. Like it makes sense. Is that fair price, the relative valuation compared to the other companies in this industry? Those make sense. Those are a few things you need to consider when you are investing. As always, that is it. Love people, some random things and make some jottings off at the top of my head. What I'm say, thank you guys for watching. That as always, love you guys. Catch you in the next video. Peace.